Hello.
It's
Welcome, everyone. I see that
Morning.
there's a few people watching live. Thank you for joining CityClips. And let me do a quick intro because some of you might have not heard of us. Ali and I have co-founded CityClips.net, a newsletter focused on business, tech, and lifestyle here in North Florida. And Eddie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to do a quick intro on you because you have done so much in the last, it says here, more than 25 years managing multi-million dollar enterprise technology projects. And you're an award-winning IT expert, mentor, and recognized speaker and CEO at Ruvos, formerly named Uber Ops, Uber Operations. And it's a leading data security and cloud computing company. You played a critical role in the development of the company's strategic growth from 5 individuals to over 100, and you continue this by working with partnerships and supplier relationships, ensuring flexibility and growth in response to an increasingly demanding marketplace. So thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys are both friends. You should be very proud of not only this format, but also the newsletter, which is a great source of information. And thank you for sharing the bio. At the end of the day, without the 100+ folks at Ruvos, that what does that bio really mean? So no, I'm honored.
So we wanted to talk a few things. Like we wanted to talk about all the different things you've been working on. Obviously, our topic for today is partnerships, and you're really great at doing that in our community. You've done all kinds of things like co-founding Launch Tally, which I'll go ahead and share really quick for those of you who haven't heard of it. Really great initiative, I think, to highlight all the great things happening here in Tallahassee. And then you're also a co-founder of Well Connector, which is another big project, in addition to providing the client services that you guys do wonderfully. And then we also wanted to ask you about the story behind Ruvos' involvement during COVID.
Okay, awesome. No, I love the topic of partnerships. When you speak to my business partners, Jeff Couch and Franz DeVet, and we look back, because we're celebrating 20. You guys know us. We're celebrating 20 years this year, which is pretty amazing. Lots of ups and downs, lots of amazing moments, and we're beginning our theme this year. We're beginning the year of adventure, which we're really, really, really pumped about, and we're really excited about. But when you look back the last 20 years, we've been able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish through obviously our partnerships, right? And those partnerships are at a national level. We work with national nonprofits, where yes, we may be on the legal document a contractor to this organization, but at the end of the day, we're in this together, and we're truly partners. I think the concept of partners, also relates to the 100+ people at Ruvos. At the end of the day, we're once again in this together. We're one team. We have partnerships between our different teams, our different departments, quote unquote, and we're very grateful for the organizations that have trusted in us. So one partnership which has been pretty amazing is Amazon Web Services. So we are one of the top tier Amazon Web Services partners in the world, especially in the public health space. Great opportunities there that we've been able to collaborate on, the Association of Public Health Labs and other organizations, but they've been there throughout the journey, right, over the last 20 years. And then, of course, over the last 4 years, which was, our kind of our Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl when it comes to public health technology, we've been able to form new partnerships, be a little bit more entrepreneurial. Well Connector is one of them. Launch Tally, focus on the community, and others as well. As a small business, we know what we're darn good at, and we know what maybe we're not the greatest at. So partnerships really allow us to scale and allow us to do some amazing things. So you mentioned COVID, right? So let me take you back to January 2020, which was, I still have this email saved, and many people who are listening to this have probably heard this story a million times, but it was the first email exchange that we had as an organization with the Florida Department of Health, and also other emails with folks at the federal level about this thing called COVID. And so over the last 4 years, the folks at Ruvos, as well as the overall public health community, not only healthcare, but the epidemiologists, the data scientists, and others have been really working extremely hard, right, to make sure that the epidemiologists, as I mentioned, the doctors, the physicians, the families, the school boards, the surgeon generals, the administrations in DC, both of them have the information to make decisions. And so, January 20th for us is one of those moments. We just celebrated 4 years a month ago. Is one of those moments, one of those milestones, right? Because at that point, a small business in North Florida was asked, and at times we volunteered to get involved in projects of national significance. Some people often ask, Eddie, in simple terms, what does Ruvos do? I believe we're a data company, and we've assembled some of the best public health technology experts on the planet. But we're kind of almost like the FedEx of healthcare, right? We're delivering the data to the front door of the folks that are making decisions that ultimately can save lives. And so I'm happy to say many of the folks that are listening today, hopefully, or will be listening in the recording, have worked very hard to move, over 2.5 billion COVID test results. Now, that's one example in one use case of something that we've done. We've got another 19, 20 projects with our partners, of course, where we're moving influenza data, where we're moving, for example, HIV/AIDS data, vital statistics. The big one, birth and death records, right? Someone's got to move that data across the United States and also to the CDC for statistical purposes. Guess who's moving that with our partners? This small business here in North Florida.
That's amazing, honestly. And a lot of these things, just because they're not on the scene, like we don't know who's moving this, we take it for granted and we think it's normal to have data. But I will tell you, we work in research with so many countries, and there isn't the availability of data usually isn't the same between different infrastructures. So I think what you're doing is amazing, and we're taking it for granted. But I think it was good. But let me ask you this: like just from one startup to another, like I will understand. Usually, there's two types of problems when it comes to companies. There is bad problems where actually you don't have a business or the revenue is not going well, etc. These are what they call bad problems in startups. But then there is good problems when all of a sudden you get a phone call like this or an email like this, and all of a sudden you have to ramp up the team you have to double it, or you have to triple it, or you have to tackle issues that maybe you weren't that ready for. How do you handle that? And that can scare a lot of businesses. And this is what makes or breaks a business. If a business can step up to such an opportunity and take it, it can be the biggest game changer in their history. But a lot of businesses can also, I've seen it where they will say, no, I'm not up to this. It's too big of a challenge for me. How do you guys deal with that? And I don't know, how do you handle it? And what's your advice for anyone who will face such a situation like this?
That is a great question. Look, January 2020, Ali and Julia, we didn't have to say yes to some of those initiatives. Now, we felt there was a responsibility. We had, for the most part, a talented group that could take on the challenge right away. And we said, yes, we're ready to take on the challenge. And by the way, during that time, there were some large multinational organizations that I assume were saying, don't hire Ruvos. They're too small. They've been around for 14, 15 years. They're a fly by night. You can't trust them, and they're not going to be able to deliver. Well, 4 years has passed, and the rest is history, even though we still have a lot to improve. But I will tell you that 2023, as myself, our leaders, all the employees at Ruvos did a lot of reflecting. And what we realized was 2023 was a year really in investing in our folks and in our organization, right? So focus on operations, because we knew the work was there. We knew there was pressure to deliver ultimately for the customer. But if your house is not in order, and it's still a work in progress, if your house is not in order from an operational perspective, you can tip over. And it will ultimately impact the culture and ultimately impact your ability to deliver. So some of the things that we've done, we've implemented a new HR software, ADP, which many of you have heard. We implemented, which is a big challenge and still a work in progress, we implemented NetSuite. So we've got folks on this phone call like, Manny, Candace, Steve, and many others and Amy that have been implementing a piece of software that it was a big investment. It still is, also not only monetarily, but also from a human resource perspective. But we feel those are foundational components to prepare us for the next big thing. Professional development. And so making sure that we invest in professional development, that was a big investment in 2023. Another one was you've grown from 45 people to over 100, making sure that we have good relationships with our team members across the world. I mean, we're across 24 states and we have a wholly owned subsidiary in South Africa. So one of the things that we did last year was we flew in pretty much every team to Tallahassee to get together and have a retreat. It was, a retreat where you had obviously productivity and you were doing work together as a team, but there was also some social activities where you got to know each other, right? We didn't have to do that, but we felt that it was important to be able to kind of weave and integrate. There's a good example, a good picture. Thank you, Julie, for sharing that. So we invested in bringing all the folks into Tallahassee for that. Another thing that we did was we have been working so hard over the last 4 years that we really haven't had an opportunity to share all the good work that our amazing team members have done. So we attended 12 conferences. We beefed up our marketing and branding. We sponsored events. We profiled our team members to make sure that we're able to articulate the hard work that we have done, not only the last 4 years, but obviously over the last 20 years. So 2023, making sure the house is in order, operational excellence, it'll continue into 2024, but we felt it was extremely necessary because of this organic and natural growth that we experienced. Now, going into 2024, in January of this year, we shared our strategic priorities. That first foundational component is still operational excellence. There's still work that has to be done, and it does create more work, but we feel that investment will allow us to ultimately deliver for our customers. These are the folks that are depending on us. Operational excellence, financial health, which we then believe will allow us to diversify, will allow us to better create products, and will allow us to do some of those cool and amazing things that we feel we can accomplish with the amazing talent that we have in our organization.
This is great.
It's paying off. It's paying off. Julia, I've heard this, by the way, from I met someone randomly and they told me, by the way, Eddie, I wish if I can work at Ruvos. So I think everything that they've been doing to promote the brand and honestly,
but Ali, honestly, I'm just
amazing.
Listen, thank you. I'm just a messenger. So I got the easy job to talk about. No, it's serious. I'm serious to talk about the amazing people we have. There's a adding to your comment. There's an employee in our organization who was finishing her master's in business. Okay. And one of her tasks was, I guess, to ask someone at Ruvos, a leader at Ruvos, what would be considered your biggest failure? And I had to think about that, right? Because I can think of many things. But for me, the biggest failure, and I think Franz and Jeff, owners and business partners of mine, the biggest failure would be not to be able to keep the amazing folks that we've hired and retained together. I honestly think, from the bottom of my heart, we have the best when it comes to healthcare technology, and some of the things that we're going to do around data science and anomaly detection, all these amazing things. I truly think we have the best team on the planet to do this work. What we have been able to do with 100-ish people, there are multinational organizations, multi-billion-dollar organizations right now that are looking and trying to figure out how the hell we're doing it, right? So no, I get the good job to share the stories. While I'm here sharing this story, I know there are people coding and doing amazing things in cybersecurity and cloud computing and data science. So I'm the lucky one here.
I think you're also a great voice in representing that tech can be pretty much amazing here in Tallahassee, and also you have the advantage. You've got a lot of remote employees. You're managing to keep that culture intact, and that's a big challenge because you got these bigger tech companies trying to steal from the smaller guys. So how have you managed to keep your culture strong, growing to 100, being based in Tallahassee? I'm sure that's a big challenge here.
I love that question because it's a lot of work, and there are folks, like I said on this phone call, that focus on culture, that focus on professional development, that have open door policies to listen, to be there for your employees, for your team members. People often ask, Eddie, how many employees do you have? I usually respond by saying, It's 115 families, right? It's 74 children, right? It's people that speak 21 languages, right? It is 9% of our workforce were veterans, right? And so the reason I'm sharing these statistics is not to share that I have a good memory, because I don't. It's to show you that we really truly care. And I have a map where everyone's located. I have a spreadsheet of the children's names for all of our team members across the nation. And so that stuff matters, because at the end of the day, when it's midnight and you're doing a major upgrade of a firewall, for example, and our customers are depending on us, and everyone's exhausted, and you may have a child who is sick, and your spouse has to go to work the next day, and it's stressful. At the end of the day, you have to be one team to be able to deliver. And it's hard to do that when you've got folks in California and you've got folks in South Africa. So not everyone believes in the culture thing, the family thing, the working together thing. And I totally respect that and I understand that. But to us, that is truly important. And I think that's one of the reasons we have a pretty good batting average, as they say in baseball, in terms of retaining folks. Not perfect. We've had some boomerang employees that have left and come back, which is always exciting. And there are people, like you alluded to, that would love to work at Ruvos, which is I'm very grateful for. My challenge is, in addition to the culture and the professional development, making sure these folks stay, is also to keep them challenged. We're talking about high intensity, amazing producers of amazing work. If they're bored, no bueno, right? We have to make sure that they're challenged, that they feel that they're also contributing to the community. We sometimes have to remind folks that may have their headphones on and drinking their Mountain Dew, that the code that they're writing could save a life. Mm-hmm. We're involved right now with one of our partners on an initiative that is focused on newborns and newborn screening. The work that you're doing, and it's hard to understand that when you've been working for 12 hours and you're exhausted, but the work that you're doing can save a baby's life. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think it's also been an experiment. Right. So one of the things that we did, which is I think related to the question, is unlimited paid time off. Right. We went back and forth and said, okay, what are some of the things from a benefits perspective? Because yes, salaries are important, but it's the total package, as you all know. Right. And we said, well, there's this thing called unlimited paid time off. There are some use cases that say it's very successful. There are some use cases and white papers that say it's not successful. But what myself, Jeff, and Franz and our HR department said is, you know what? Let's try it. Worst case scenario, in 6 months, we can scrap it. Well, it's been a while now, and we're working on it. It's not perfect, but that's an example of things that we've had to tweak based on feedback from staff, right? That we've had to tweak that we feel, hopefully, our staff feels it's beneficial. But it is a highly competitive world. I know right now, our team members who have amazing professional brands and personal brands, I'm sure they're getting offers, right? I totally expect it. But I'm also hopeful and I'm confident that we'll continue keeping them challenged and keeping them as part of our Ruvos family.
There's a big push all over tech companies now for bringing people back to the office. And there's another big push that is actually about slashing employees. And many tech companies are saying, we have to change path or reskill our organization so that we're more ready for AI and what AI can do. And a lot of coders, more than anyone, are scared of AI. Like, it's amazing how they coded something that actually can put them out of business. So, but these are some of the challenges. These three challenges, between the reskilling, between bringing people back to the office, between slashing organizations, are facing a lot of tech companies right now. Where are you when it comes to these? Are you facing the same things, or maybe luckily you're trying to tackle them in different ways?
No, it's a great question. First, on the artificial intelligence, the data science, where we're very lucky that we've got some amazing people like Jake, Jenny, Ryan, and others, and Christian and others that are truly experts in this area. And one of the things that we have, our focus has been education. Like, what does this really mean? By the way, not only educating our potential customers on AI and data science and machine learning, but also educating us on how this can impact public health, right? And how it can impact our business. And so we're very lucky. We've got an amazing team and they're getting us up to speed. And I mentioned the FedEx of healthcare. We want to not only deliver the the appliance to your front door or the data to your front door, we then also want to help you use that data, forecast, find utility in that data to make decisions. And that's part of our goal now over the last 24 months. Look, we're opening up a new office in about a month and 10 days. Okay. The format is going to be a little bit more collaborative. It's going to be less choppy. It's going to be more for, when our visitors come into town, our employees, our customers, where we can have more of interactive discussions. I'm more old school. I love to work with folks in person, right? But we also understand it's a different world. Listen, it's an experiment for us too. There are days where I say, I want everyone here at HQ, but I also know that's not reality, right? And at the end of the day, we want people to produce. We want people to deliver for our customers. We want people to feel challenged and happy. And I think that's something that we're going to take little by little as it comes. I mean, even this morning, I had a discussion about, we're going to have a new office. Is it going to be empty? Or are there going to be people there? I'm confident people are going to realize the investment that we made and the way it was designed. We've got a great group that are designing how it's going to look and feel, that we're going to have people that are going to want to be there. But the reality is we've got maybe 30% of our workforce here in North Florida, right? So we have to continue finding creative ways, going back to that other original question around culture, of how do you interact with folks that are in 24 states and in another country? How do you interact when your customers are in other states, right? A lot of our business is outside of the state of Florida. We're now working in global health. We're going to have work in Uganda. How are we going to work with folks in Uganda? And so I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to be a huge learning experience. I think we're probably going to do really well. I'm sure we'll fumble, as they say in football, a few times, bounce back, learn from it, and move forward.
And you're coming up on your 20th year. And let me go ahead and just share this. It's pretty awesome. I really love how you guys, put all your branding in place, and just so well done. You're involved in a lot of things in our community, as I mentioned earlier, which is Launch Tally. What makes you so passionate about it? Like everything related to making sure that everyone knows, hey, we can actually have a successful tech company here in Tallahassee. What made you, I feel like you are one of the ones taking the lead to bring this, to launch it, literally, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that question. And yes, so our laboratory is Tallahassee, where, we're here. We might as well capitalize on opportunities with like Domi Station, Launch Tally, and a bunch of other organizations. The reality is that the efforts that we back are nationwide topics, right? So a big topic for us is early education. I had someone ask me 3 years ago, Eddie, why are you involved in early education if you guys are a healthcare technology company? My response is because there are 74 children at Ruvos, and especially during COVID, family is extremely important. So when we get involved in like 0 to 5 initiatives, it's because there are Ruvos employees and team members across the world that have children, and obviously that is their priority. So we have to be cognizant of what challenges they're experiencing. What can we do as an organization to help them when they've got to pick up their child at 2 o'clock in early dismissal, or when someone is sick and feeling that tug of war where my daughter has a 101 fever, I've got a conference call, I only have 10 days of PTO. Well, guess what? With Ruvos, there's a little bit more flexibility, right? And so, for us, these are topics that, yes, we're involved here in North Florida, and it's kind of our lab, but they're topics of national significance. The small business technology topic, right? There are many organizations out there that probably believe a small business can do things nationally or globally. Well, we've proven them wrong. Now, it helps when you've got partners. It helps when you work with cloud computing. It helps, when you hire the best on the planet. But we're a 100-person organization competing with organizations that have 500,000 people, right? And so the small business topics are extremely important for that. Ali and I have had discussions around the startup business is extremely important for us. There are other Ruvoses out there that probably feel that there are mountains that they have to overcome. And so if we have an opportunity to share with them the things that we've done well, the things that we maybe have not done so well, for us, that's a win. For us, that's a win. And so these are some of the reasons why these topics are extremely important. And being able to give, at the end of the day, we feel there's a responsibility to be able to give back. There's another initiative called Tally Job Hop. There's Worlds of Work. There's other initiatives that focus on high school students. There are some initiatives that focus on freshmen in college. Well, guess what? In a few years, they're the workforce. And so we have to start investing earlier and earlier and earlier. We have individuals in our organization that have been with us for years that are managing national projects that we met when they were freshmen at Florida State University. And now they run circles around me, right? Like this. It happens like that.
So you're not moving out of Tally. Let's just make sure, because that's not a lot of another company is going to move out of Tally for one reason or another. I've seen.
No, I mean, we're confident we're going to obviously have a presence here and continue. That's one of the reasons I love the retreats when people came to Tallahassee, because they got to learn about North Florida. By the way, it is the capital of soon to be the 10th largest economy on the planet. Yeah. That's something to consider. But I do see us having more of a presence potentially in Atlanta, where the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is. I see us having potentially more of a presence in Washington, D.C. Okay. One of the other things related to presence is when you look at our map, right, and you look at where our team members are, there are clusters. There's a cluster in the North Carolina area. There's a cluster in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. There's a cluster in the Atlanta area. How can we use those clusters of team members to potentially generate new business, create new opportunities and new challenges? And so we're looking at it strategically. But yeah, there are some cities that, God willing, one day we may have a little office. But in the meantime, we're here in Tallahassee. We're very supportive of the community, and we look forward to promoting all the amazing things that our community have to all of our employees across the world.
And I know because Ali is a busy man, he has a hard stop. But like I mentioned to Eddie earlier, we would love to still continue to
sure.
talk about more other initiatives that you've been involved in. So Ali, if you wanted to say one more thing.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'd really thank you, Eddie, for your time. I know I know for you it's a busy day, and definitely it's very difficult, but it was amazing and inspiring. And I think we all have a role to play in how to grow the tech community more and more in Tallahassee. And I think Launch Tally and what you guys are doing in Ruvos as a brand is just amazing for the whole community. So I really thank you and your whole team for that.
Thank you too, and thank you for the opportunity and for everything you do in the community as well.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Yeah. See you next time, Ali.
Bye.
So one of the things too, Eddie, I wanted to ask because, and I like how there's some of your team members I know is watching. So, how do you identify what would be key strategic partners for your organization? Obviously it has to do with core values, right? What aligns with your company values? Is that part of what you look at?
Yeah, I mean, when we have and we're having actually coincidentally, Julia, we have a potential partner tech company that's coming into our office today to see if we can, become a reseller and a partner of theirs. I think it's like in any relationship, having common values, being, part of our why statement is helping the community we serve and solving problems, really doing cool stuff. We have an employee that would say doing cool something else, but we got to keep it child friendly, but really doing amazing cool stuff that ultimately impacts the communities that we serve. And so, Amazon Web Services is, like I said earlier, is a great example of a partner. A lot of our, they're considered customers, but we consider them partners. One of them is the Association of Public Health Laboratories that we've been with them for 16 years. We're kind of like a brother sister type of relationship, like any partnership. There's always ups and downs, but these partnerships, you really get to know the fabric of their organization and how they all work internally, how we work internally. I think we get to learn a lot from each other, from different partnerships. We worked with Deloitte, for example, so we get a feel for how one of those large, huge multinational companies operates. There are some things that we love that they do, and maybe there are some things that we feel we can do a little bit better. But together, you're able to approach challenges as well. And if it was up to us, we would send people to the moon, right? Or to Mars, like SpaceX is doing. I like to use a SpaceX analogy because, SpaceX, it partners with NASA, and they have other partners as well. And
Mhm.
I assume if Elon was on this podcast, and hopefully one day he will be, if you asked him, he would probably obviously talk about his amazing staff, but also the partners and the partnerships he's had over the years to be able to send those rockets up and land them appropriately, on Earth. And we owe it a lot to our partners. And I think if you interviewed some of our partners as well, they would probably say, Ruvos has been there. Ruvos is dependable. Ruvos is willing to, just jump on a call. You can always count on Ruvos. And we want to keep that, kind of mentality going. We think that's some of the competitive advantages that we have over some of the other organizations. I mentioned operational excellence earlier today and kind of maturing our processes and keeping our house in order. That is also a delicate balance because you don't want to overcomplicate things, right? On our website, it said complexity simplified. But at times, as we search for perfection, even internally and operationally, we want to make sure that we give our team members the flexibility and the opportunity to be innovative, to be creative, to think outside of the box, to have, to the best of our ability, the freedom, right, to solve problems in a way that our competitors would never be able to solve problems. So it is a delicate balance, and but like I said, partnerships have been key to our success, and they've been there through the tough times, and they've been there through the amazing times as well.
And you mentioned how you really like to give your team opportunities to innovate and work on things. So is that one of the reasons why you also joined in with the team with Well Connector to help them develop that? And I liked how it's focused on solving a local problem as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great example. So for us, Well Connector, Allison Abushan, Josh Abushan, and the other folks that came to us, if you go back to 2023, one of our strategic priorities was to do more work with the private sector, with doctors' offices, right? We realized, I think everyone realized around the world, that public health and the private sector healthcare, industries or worlds or sectors, we're all in this together. We have to be able to work together, right? At the end of the day, we've got to be able to share data, break down those silos, and work together to solve problems. But when you look at our portfolio of customers, which we're very grateful for, it lacks that private sector space. So that was already a goal for us in 2022, 2023. And of course, it is one this year as well from a priority perspective. And so here comes Allison Abushan, who is an amazing communications expert, and her husband, who's an amazing lobbyist and lawyer, and said, listen, there is a problem that we see in the market. It has to do with doctors' offices. It has to do with the intake problem, right? The intake process at doctors' offices, that initial paper process. Okay. We've heard about Ruvos. We hear you guys are doing amazing things with data and really around the world. Can you solve our problem? And I remember being in a large conference room, folks like Franz and Jeff and Gio, and I'm going to forget a few others. They were like, wow, this is something that we can do. Joe was there as well. This is something that we can do and we can help solve. And by the way, it's also an excuse to start doing work with the private sector. And so we're very excited about this initiative. We had focus groups, because who are we to go tell doctors what to do? So we've been meeting with focus groups. We've been meeting with administrators, staff. If we're going to implement a quote unquote TSA pre-check for doctors' offices, we really needed to understand their pain points. And we received a ton of feedback. Actually, we were yesterday at an event at the Capital Medical Society, where we received a ton of feedback from physicians, which was an amazing opportunity. They got to learn about Well Connector and Ruvos, et cetera. And so right now we are, focused on trying to finish the minimal viable product. We're looking potentially for outside investors and participants that are willing to have a skin in the game. But the focus, as you said earlier, was focus on local. At the end of the day, healthcare is local. I've got my dentist, my doctor. I've got an eye doctor appointment on Friday. I've got my wellness person, but it's all within like 20 miles, right? And so we think there's also an opportunity to focus on the local approach. We want to hit a home run in this local community. And God willing, we'll be able to take that model to other local communities. When I mentioned earlier, the clusters of folks at Ruvos throughout the U.S. And if you ask me, where would you think, if as we do work here in Tallahassee, we hit a home run with Well Connector, what would be the next location? It could be possibly somewhere where we've got some Ruvos folks already. where we've got boots on the ground and they have relationships. So what we did learn through the Well Connector experience is the relationships are super key, right? We've been working at a statewide and federal level, and going down to the local level, we've learned a heck of a lot. The other thing related to Well Connector, you're looking at a 19, 20-year-old company who's been operating a business for 20 years, and suddenly we've got a startup-ish feel to our portfolio. We have a product feel to our portfolio. So we've got folks like Kristen and John Shorter and Joe Kaliki and a few others that are trying to implement the design thinking and the product mentality to the work that we do, not just the consulting and the human aspect to it, which I think is fascinating. I will tell you, going back to one of the first questions, which is how do you balance it all in operations? I think one of the things that happens a lot, Julia, with really smart people at Ruvos is we want to solve every problem, right? We love really cool technology and being able to use that and implement it. And at times we've had to say, okay, that's all great, but we need to focus, right? We have our current customers, we need to deliver for them. And if we have the opportunity to do other things, we will take that on. But we've had to do some prioritization, right? Like any business, like any family,
Right.
any household. We've had to do some prioritization because we know you only have a certain amount of capacity. But it's been thrilling. It's been an amazing learning experience, and I'm confident that we're going to have more support for Well Connector, and I'm also confident that we'll be able to expand, God willing, throughout the United States.
That's exciting. Yeah. I mean, so much is going on. Aren't you going to be a speaker at Synapse as well? It
So
sounds like?
I'm not going to be able to attend. I've got some Ruvos commitments, but Allison
Okay.
Abushan will be in the pitch contest. She'll be representing Well Connector. I'm also confident that she's going to win, right?
Wow.
Which is very exciting.
That is so exciting.
Another example of why we believe Well Connector is a great opportunity for a 20-year-old, old organization like Ruvos is, I think once doctors realize that, Ruvos has capabilities like interoperability, cloud computing, cybersecurity, I think they'd be willing to, partner with us and hire us to do those things. Our philosophy is I can't necessarily go into a doctor's office today and say, hey, I want to move everything to the cloud. I want to handle your cybersecurity. I want to do all of your interfaces and interoperability and data exchange with public health, right? A doctor or an administrator or a CFO or a CIO or CEO of a doctor's office will be overwhelmed. We feel strategically, and this is a little bit of inside baseball for whoever is listening or watching, strategically, Well Connector could be that excuse, or as some organizations call the accelerator, to get in the door. And then once we're there, we feel like we can help even more and add more value. We have a gentleman who's joined our organization, Zach Finn, who's been, great individual, health informatics, health IT here in this area for a long time. And he says, Eddie, a major issue with doctors' offices, and you experience this, Julia, is workflow. Their workflow pain points. It's understanding the workflow. And we feel Well Connected is that first piece of that workflow. And we know there's another 100 things that need to be improved, but let's focus on that first piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What better way to brand yourself and just earn someone's trust? Because a lot of the times, and you know better than I do, from my understanding is these doctors' offices, they're only exposed to so much. And I think they also have to use certain service providers within their sphere. There has to be certifications. Maybe it's associations that are affiliated with, or insurance is also a big factor.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother bag of challenges that you have to face. But I really appreciate that you're still trying to tackle this problem, because that was one of my first issues moving here. I was like, I'm used to Kaiser Permanente, where I could just show up with a card and just, they know everything about my my personal data.
And by the way, there are a lot of communities across the U.S. where you have disparate systems. You have, small doctors' offices that don't communicate with the other doctor's office across the street, right? They don't have a Kaiser Permanente or a large HCA network or things of that nature. And, we can be that piping, that highway system, right, between all those different organizations. I will say that the Health Information Exchange, or HIE topic, which was hot several times over the last 15 to 20 years is back, right? And so, the sharing of data and the sharing of good quality data is back. I think COVID helped with that. There is actually legislation and funding, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, that's going to help folks like a Julia Holly be able to, God willing, exchange data from one physician to another, right? Without having to carry a file full of papers. I always like to use the example. I can go skiing in Colorado today, sprain my ankle. They want to have surgery. They can't have the surgery until they get my records. It's a Saturday. My doctor's office in Tallahassee is closed. They have to wait till Monday and ask for the facts of my records, right? That's unacceptable, right? You compare that to the financial services industry. You compare that to other industries that are 25 to 30 years more advanced. For us, that's an opportunity. Once again, that's in line with our why statement, which is helping the communities we serve and obviously solving their problems.
And it's really important that it's obviously secure. And so you managed to do it at a global and national level. So to see it and you guys address this challenge here locally is pretty awesome. How have you guys managed everything related to keeping things secure? That's the other thing I think that these bigger tech companies are like, how is this little guy doing it?
That's it's a great question. I will start off by saying that we have hired folks that are darn good at the cybersecurity stuff, right? And I'm not going to list the names because I'm going to miss people.
Yes,
but they know who they are. The ones that we are in a better
also position. Protect them,
That's right. That's right.
Don't reveal your secret sauce.
No, absolutely not. We're in a better position today than we were yesterday, than we were 6 months ago, than we were 2 years ago. Now, I will tell you, it's going to be a consistent process. It's a living thing, right? We have to continue to improve as an organization. We have to continue educating our staff, our team members, on how they can be impacted from a social engineering perspective, on how they access their, the data. But we have a huge responsibility. We are, without getting too many details, we're in a position where there's data that we have to protect. And that is a huge responsibility. And so it is a constant thing that we continue investing in. We've invested in a few tools. We brought on some amazing, talented folks that have seen it all. They've been auditors. They've worked at AWS. I mean, they're just amazing folks that live and die. They're always thinking about it. And, for example, yesterday I had a meeting about an audit report. And I was in this meeting with our internal staff and just listening to them, their professionalism, their experience, them nitpicking a third party's audit report. I was so impressed. I had goosebumps. I'm thinking, wow, those are Ruvos people, thinking this way and protecting the organization and protecting our customers as well, and all the patients' data that we are involved in. And so, partnering also with like AWS and other third parties that have tools and processes also helps. And so we're grateful for the era of cloud computing. Because imagine if we had to do all of this, not only hosting and moving data, but also securing data. If we had to do it like we did it in 2010 or 2011 or 2012 at a physical data center, right? Imagine having to scale and move data, right, at a rapid pace. You physically have to go to a data center and go to a rack and add a server, a blade server, things like that. I mean, those days are over. It's still a lot of work, but we're able to scale and compete and work alongside some of the largest companies on the planet. And a big piece of that is the usefulness and the value that cloud computing brings to the table. It has its own challenges, right? You have to be careful with cost. You have to have the right folks that are, certified and experienced in that space. But it's really allowed us to compete with, like I said, some of the largest companies on the planet.
That's awesome. And most people in Tallahassee, it's funny, they don't even know half the story. So I'm so glad that we could have you on. And before we wrap up, I wanted to mention a few things and be respectful of your time, obviously. So you're on the board of multiple organizations, but especially I wanted to highlight DOMI and Ricardo Schneider is there. And so Ali was former board chair. And so I really appreciate folks like you in town being CEOs of these really tremendous companies and also contributing to organizations like DOMI to support early stage entrepreneurs and startup founders like myself. And so it really means a lot. And you know, recently Ricardo Schneider with Dan Foss announced that they partnered with companies like Google, well, especially Google, to work on some initiatives on. I'm not even going to botch the information, but it has to do with data centers. Speaking of data, right?
Yeah.
And so why would you say that people should also support organizations like Domi and those kinds of entrepreneurial support organizations?
I mean, we were a 2-person, 3-person, 5-person organization at one point, and we were very grateful for what the community provided us and the support that they provided as well. Another thing related to like organizations like Domi Station, we have folks in our organization that were associated with that institution that are now employees of Ruvos, right? So it's a great place. I always tell folks at Domi, I say, yes, you want a divvy up. I mean, you want these organizations, these startups to go and make millions and change the world. But what they're actually producing more of are individuals, your own startup, individuals that have matured and learned that can then go work at an organization as well. And so we've had the privilege of being able to recruit folks from Domi, but we also feel like we have a responsibility to give back to the community, not only here in North Florida, but across the nation if we can. And we feel like, and that's kind of in our DNA. I mean, it's also within our organization. If there are folks that need help, if there are folks that had a loss in the family or any type of situation, we want to be there for our internal community as well. But yeah, there's definitely something in the air here in Florida. I see a lot of movement around the technology sector. I think Florida's learning a lot from other cities, and we're happy to be able to represent to the best of our ability, and also be able to say that we're doing some amazing things officially across the world, starting with Uganda when we kick off a project on March 4th of this year.
That's so exciting. Is there anything else you want to highlight that's coming up soon that you want us to support? I've shared, all your websites, so everyone should try to connect with Eddie. I put your information there. Follow you on LinkedIn. You almost got 5,000 followers, which is really you're like a micro influencer on LinkedIn
No,
there.
I don't know about that. No, I want to take this opportunity. First of all, thank you and Ali for this platform, this stage to share our story. And for those staff that are watching, I know many of them are tired. Some of them may be frustrated because they're working extremely hard. Hopefully, a lot of them are happy. But the reality is that I'm extremely grateful for everything that they do. I have, like I said earlier, I've got the easy job to sit here with you, have an amazing conversation on a Wednesday to talk about all the badass things that they're doing. And so I just wanted to make sure that they're aware that myself, Jeff, and Franz are extremely grateful. And we're going to continue doing everything we can to continue making sure they're challenged and to continue reminding them that they are changing the world, they're improving the world, and they're ultimately saving lives.
This is awesome. And that's one of our main missions at CityClips is to highlight companies like yours on what you're doing with your team and making an impact globally, because it's funny to me that most people don't even know anything that Ruvos is doing here, locally. So we want to spread that story as much as we can. And it's I appreciate it. So
thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the opportunity, and congrats on your success and all the things that you're doing with your personal brand and your business and this, really popular podcast, and of course your newsletter.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and one of the things we do to help grow it, if for those of you who don't know, and I'll just share it really briefly, is we do giveaways. So we partnered with our friends at North Florida Wildlife Center, and they were willing to help us with this promo. And for those of you who signed up within the last few days, pretty much, we actually are doing a drawing. So I'm going to do that drawing really quick, and then we'll announce it live so that everyone knows we're not trying to pull some side little cheat here. We're not doing any favors here. So here, I'm going to do this really quick, spinning it for those who signed up. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Janelle. You have won our giveaway. Yay!
Can we do another giveaway?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, our theme this year is adventure, right? Not only because in business or in your career, there's ups and downs, there's summits, you got to roll in the same direction. I mean, all those cliches, all those comparisons.
Yeah.
But also there's a flavor there of physical health, mental health, and wellness as well. And so I'd love to provide a care package related to our theme to maybe someone, if we can do that giveaway now or when appropriate, let me know and we can
Yeah.
send that package to that individual, that winner.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
let's
welcome.
work out the details
Okay.
after this, and obviously you probably want to check, tell me who you want to help coordinate that in your team.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
really awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I guess we'll wrap up. And if you have
Right.
time, Eddie, afterwards to be on the backstage and just talk about whatever you need to talk about. And those of you who would love to be on the show to feature your business, tech, everything related to that, we'd love to highlight that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.